Welcome to this tutorial, where we'll explore Portfolyo, an app designed to help individual investors effortlessly track their investments. Note that this tutorial includes chapters, making it easy to navigate to your points of interest. It also offers subtitles in various languages. Reasons to choose Portfolyo. Benchmarking your performance. Most exchanges calculate the development in your current holdings, excluding gains from previous trades. This leads to an incomplete picture of your portfolio performance. Portfolyo includes profits and losses from trades in the selected period, along with dividends and other transactions. It can calculate your portfolio's performance since any date. Centralize your investments. Utilize Portfolyo to compile an overview of all your investments, whether it's pensions, freely traded assets, crypto, or any other asset you wish to track. Easily monitor all your accounts in one place. Market monitoring. Portfolyo automatically monitors your portfolio and favorites for fluctuations. You'll receive a notification if any stock of interest swings more than 4%, provided you've enabled it in settings. You can also set custom price alerts that trigger when a price is crossed or a trailing stop loss that follows the price up, and triggers only if it goes down by a set percentage. Daily or weekly reports. Receive regular reports on your portfolio's progress, ensuring you're always updated with your investments. Here we have the main screen in Portfolyo. Before we delve into the individual features, let me quickly walk you through the screen. At the top left, we have the menu. It houses functions that aren't used frequently and will be covered later. Top right, there's a bell indicating if there is any new notifications, like alarms, splits that has been performed on stocks in your portfolio or other. Adjacent to it, we have the search field used to find assets, stocks, crypto, and more. Up here are all the markets supported by the app, providing a quick overview of the day. A gray card indicates the market is closed. The cards will be sorted by the assets in your portfolios. Things are looking good today. All markets are in the green, except for the Nasdaq 100, which is slightly down. Below are my portfolios. Initially, the app creates one portfolio. It guesses the base currency based on your language settings. If incorrect, or if you wish to create a portfolio with a different base currency, click Add Portfolio and create a new one. Here, you can choose the currency. We'll cover that later. Notice that you can expand the portfolio card by tapping the title here. Down below the portfolios, we find market news. The app attempts to find relevant news based on your portfolio and favorites. Since my portfolio is empty and I have no favorites, the news will be about various popular companies. At the very bottom, there are icons for quickly switching to the market overview. Here, we can switch between all supported markets and different indices available in that market. Let's just add a couple of favorites. The next screen is Favorites. Notice that it is possible to create multiple lists by pressing the plus, thereby organizing your favorites by country or into a specialized area like crypto. Finally, we have the leaderboard. This feature showcases the assets experiencing the most significant rises and falls within your chosen period. It's not just about finding today's top stocks, it's also a tool to uncover assets on the rise over a longer duration. I will now demonstrate how to build a portfolio by registering stock purchases. There are two ways to do it. I'll start with the most common method. Before I begin, I'll add a portfolio. This is done by clicking on Add Portfolio. Here, the portfolio is given a name, and the base currency is chosen, in this case, Euro. And save. Now, the new portfolio appears along with a total portfolio that sums up my two portfolios. I open the total portfolio and select Settings. Here, I have the option to choose a background color for the portfolio to easily differentiate it from others. I purchased 3M from my broker and will now register the purchase. First, I go to the search field and enter the name or symbol of the stock. I select 3M. And now I'm on the detailed view for 3M. Here, it shows how many shares of that particular stock I own, currently none. You can see a graph for the selected period. It's possible to create notes for this stock. These are general notes that, for example, can cover my strategy. For instance, I can write down my expectations for 3M, which I can use later to assess if my plan held up. Down here, we have alarms, and at the bottom, you'll find news about the stock. We'll explore that later. Now let's register a purchase. The first step is to choose which portfolio the stock should be registered in. By default, the most recently used portfolio is selected. Then I select the purchase date, December 4th. I input the number of shares, the price per share, $100. And since the stock is in a euro portfolio, I've paid in euros, so the price must also be specified in euros. As seen, the app tries to calculate the price in euros based on the exchange rate on the purchase date. It may vary slightly, but often it's minimal. If you know the exact settlement rate, you can enter it here, and the app will adjust one of the other fields to match the total. You might experience the app not knowing what to correct if you've changed too many fields, and the amounts don't match. This can be resolved by deleting a field, altering another, and the app will try to calculate the empty field again. If the app can't figure it out, you can also turn off auto calculation and manually enter all fields. Then, you won't receive any assistance, and you'll have to ensure that everything adds up. I delete the total, change the exchange rate, thereby calculating the correct total, and now I can save. Now I can see that I own 20 shares. Let's go back to the home screen. Here, we can see the current value of the euro portfolio. Notice that it's possible to rearrange the order of the portfolios. Let's open the portfolio and see how it looks. Here, it shows that I own 3M, 20 shares, and the current price. We can also see that the development over the selected period is 5.68%. I bought the stock for $100 per share, which would imply an expected growth of about 7%. However, since the app also considers the exchange rate, and the euro has decreased compared to the US dollar, the development in the portfolio is slightly lower. Since I only have one position in the portfolio, it's no surprise that the portfolio's development matches that of the stock. Let's change the period to a week. Now the development is 3.08%. This indicates the difference in the price of 3M from a week ago to now. If I choose to view the development for a month, the period extends back before I bought the stock. Therefore, the app uses the purchase price. This way, you can always get the complete development for the portfolio by selecting a period that starts before all purchases. Let's go into 3M. Now it shows that I have a holding of 20 shares. I'm going to register another purchase. I'm buying another batch on the 5th. 10 shares. Again, lucky to get them at $100 with a $3 commission. Displayed here is a total of 30 shares, each purchased at an average of $100.22, factoring in the commission within the average purchase price. It's also possible to view individual transactions. Let's assume I sell 10 shares. One way to remove them from the portfolio is to slide the position. However, that's not the correct way if you want to include the proceeds in the calculations. Instead, I'll click on Register Sale. I'll sell only 10 shares. I also need to choose the sale date. Luckily, I sold at the peak, at $115. As you can see, it's now at $107, so that was quite fortunate. Let's save. Now it's visible that I still have two positions, 2 times 10 shares. This is because the app sells the oldest shares first. I'll go back to the portfolio overview. Here, it's seen that I have 20 shares, and at the same time, you can see that the stock's growth is 8.92%. This is because the profit from the sale is included. And since I sold for $115, the sold shares have performed better than those remaining in the portfolio. Naturally, I expect the price to rise on my 3M shares. But if it falls, I'd like to be notified. Therefore, I'll set up an alert. In case the price crosses $100, I'd like an alert. And save. Now I'll receive a notification if the price crosses $100. There's another way to log purchases of assets, especially useful when setting up your portfolio for the first time. It's a quick method to add multiple stocks. It's located in the menu as Register Multiple Purchases. It works by selecting the portfolio for the asset, then searching for the particular stock. Next, enter the details. Note that it's not necessary to fill in all fields, as some are automatically calculated. Continue this process. Search for the next asset, fill in the fields accordingly. Repeat this for any additional assets. Then, save. Portfolyo provides access to prices on thousands of stocks, ETFs, funds, and cryptocurrencies. However, you might encounter an asset that isn't available. If you have a subscription to the app, you can contact us and request that the asset be added. This requires the asset to be traded on one of the supported exchanges and for Portfolyo to have access to its price. If that's not possible, you can create your own assets. Navigate to the menu and select Maintain Own Asset. First, a brief description of the function. Now, I can create my first asset by clicking the plus icon. I fill in the name and select the currency for the asset valuation. It's optional to provide a symbol, but it can make searching easier. It's also possible to enter an ISIN number, which I'll skip. Then, I save it. Now, my asset appears on the list of custom assets. Clicking on it takes me to the usual asset details screen. However, there's a new option, Maintain Quotes. Here, I can add the value of the asset on different dates. I'll just add a couple more. The prices are now reflected in the graph. Returning to the main screen, I can search for my new asset just as I would for any regular asset. And now, I can register a purchase. When buying and selling assets in Portfolyo, it's essentially a shortcut to create purchase and sale transactions. All financial events in the app consist of transactions. To delve into the transactions constituting a portfolio, click on the Maintain Account button. Here, there are 4 purchase transactions. If I click on one, it shows details like price, quantity, etc. If there's a need to correct information about a purchase, it's done by accessing the specific transaction, as I've done here, and editing the relevant fields. I noticed that the commission was actually $5, so I'm correcting the amount. It might also be that there's been a stock split, and suddenly, I have 10 times more shares. In that case, I'll access the purchase transaction, correct the quantity, and save. Note that Portfolyo can automatically handle stock splits. It's preferable, as otherwise, one would have to manually go through all buys and sells for that particular stock to adjust the quantity. Let me just revert that last change. There was no current split in Microsoft after all. Let's examine the account information. At the top right, we see the account balance. It's currently negative, which is unlikely in the real world since most don't have credit with their broker. The reason for my negative balance is that I never told Portfolyo how much I initially deposited. Also noted here is no deposit. That's why the difference percentage is 0. Let's say I initially deposited $10,000. I'll create a deposit transaction. Set the date back when made the deposit. $10,000. And save. Now, we see that I indeed deposited $10,000, the balance is nearly $2,000, meaning I purchased assets worth around $8,000. The current value of my assets is $9,700, resulting in a 27% return. Let's return to the portfolio. Portfolio offers 3 different calculation modes, which can be switched between here. The default mode is Portfolio. Additionally, there's the account and asset mode. Let's delve into these 3 methods. To make it clearer to understand the process, I've created a portfolio containing only one stock. 10 shares of 3M. Inside the account, we can see that the 3M stocks was bought for $100 each with a $3 commission. Additionally, there's a deposit of $10,000. Let's start by exploring the portfolio mode. This calculation method displays the development of existing stocks in the portfolio, including historical transactions. It accounts for profits from sales, income from dividends, and other expenses and revenues. As seen here, the development since I purchased them is 5.55%. Now, let's look at the other information on the screen. Here, the value of the asset in the portfolio is displayed. The 10 3M stocks have a current value of $1,058. That's an increase of $55.70 since we bought them, as mentioned earlier, equivalent to 5.55%. The value of assets is shown here, along with any other transactions. However, since there are no other transactions at the moment, these 2 values are identical. I'll now switch to asset mode. Asset mode calculates the development of the existing assets in the portfolio at the selected period. Since no sales or other transactions have affected the result, the outcome remains the same. Account mode is a rather straightforward calculation method. It operates only if there has been a deposit, calculating the difference between the owned assets and the account balance compared to the deposited amount. In essence, it measures the return on the deposited amount. Therefore, changing the period doesn't make a difference, as it always considers the total deposit versus the current value of the portfolio and account. Let's now focus on portfolio mode. This is the default calculation method and often the most relevant. I'll proceed to sell some of my 3M shares. Register sale. I'm selling half of the shares, 5 shares, at $120 right at the top. And a commission of $3. Save. Here, it's shown that I still own 5 shares. Let's return to the portfolio. And here, in portfolio mode, the difference has now increased to 12.3%. While in asset mode, it remains at 5.55% because it reflects only the development in the remaining 5 shares. In portfolio mode, however, it considers both the 5 existing shares and the profit from the 5 sold shares. This concludes the difference among the 3 calculation methods. If you'd like to explore further, click here for a more detailed description and examples. Favorites offer a simple way to quickly overview assets you're following. As you can see here, I've already created 3 favorites, and it's effortless to add more. You simply navigate to a market and click on the heart icon, and it's added. Alternatively, you can go to the asset itself and add it there. You can create multiple lists for favorites. I'll create one for my crypto favorites. And now I can navigate to the crypto list. Notice it has a different color. All that's left is to add assets. I'll create another list and add these stocks. And now, I can easily switch between my favorites. The settings in Portfolyo are pretty self-explanatory. However, let me highlight a few points that can make your daily use of the app even better. By default, Portfolyo sends a weekly status email showing the development in all your portfolios. You can increase the frequency to receive a daily email as well. Another valuable feature is fluctuations. When activated, it monitors all assets in your portfolios and favorites, sending a notification if a stock or ETF rises or falls by more than 4% in a trading day. For cryptocurrencies, the threshold is 8% within a day. Automatic dividend payment. When enabled, Portfolyo automatically credits dividends. Note that this feature is still in beta, as there might be markets where the app doesn't receive dividend information. Please allow up to 3 business days after a dividend payment for it to appear in the app. If you don't see it, feel free to reach out to us. Once a dividend payment is processed, the app sends a notification. Automatic splits ensure adjusting the number of shares after a stock split. Similar to automatic dividend payments, it might take up to 3 business days for the split to reflect in the app. However, most often, it happens on the same day. After a split, you'll receive a notification via email or push notification, depending on the channels you've activated. A frequently asked question revolves around organizing the portfolio table to view all information. When you tap on the 3 lines in a column, it opens up settings for the table. Here, you can choose which columns to display. If you have a small screen, disabling some columns can be helpful. By dragging the icon, you can adjust the column width. Freeze to start means that the column remains fixed when you scroll horizontally. I'll activate a few more columns to illustrate. And when I drag the table, the first column remains locked. It's also possible to rearrange the order of columns by simply dragging them. AutoFit tries to adjust the columns to fit the current screen. While we're on the Portfolyo screen, I'll also showcase another small detail. When viewing the graph, it can be challenging to read the values. But here, you can drag your finger across the graph to get precise values. This also works when benchmarking the portfolio against an index. When you install Portfolyo, you automatically get a week of full access without providing any credit card details, no strings attached. After that, you can choose to subscribe or continue in a slightly limited version with ads. The free version allows for only 2 portfolios and 2 alarms. With a subscription, there are no limitations, plus you get automatic monitoring of all assets in your portfolios for fluctuations. However, the primary reason to subscribe is that you actively contribute to keeping Portfolyo evolving. So take out a subscription and help us build a better app for everyone. Thank you for using Portfolyo, and happy investing.